A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the Union to be dissolved. I do not expect the house to fall. But I do expect that it will cease to be divided. It will become all of one thing or all of the other. Either the opponents of slavery will arrest the further spread of it and place it where the public mind shall rest in the belief that it is in the course of ultimate extinction, or its advocates will push it forward until it shall become alike lawful in all states, old as well as new, north as well as south. Abraham Lincoln, June 16, 1858, in an address to the Republican Convention. Hi everyone, welcome back to Things You Should Know, Civil War Edition. We'll be switching gears and moving away from the West Virginia campaign, which were all the prior battles with Sheep Mountain and all that, and we'll be beginning what is called the First Manassas Campaign. This campaign occurred between June 1st, 1861 and July 21st, 1861. The two sides had lined up and were ready for fight. This occurred right after Fort Sumter. The Confederates were organized into two armies in the northern Virginia area. General Joseph E. Johnston was in charge of the Army of Shenandoah, located near Harper's Ferry, while Brigadier General P.G.T. Beauregard was appointed the commander of the Army Potomac. Yes, this is the same General Beauregard that we met in the Fort Sumter battle. He was ordered to defend the rail center of Manassas Junction. Prior to being assigned to the Manassas Junction, General Beauregard had repeated requests to President Davis, the President of the Confederate States, asking if he could start an offensive attack into Maryland. President Davis refused all of his requests due to supply risks and resource concerns. On the other side, the Union forces were organized under the command of Brigadier General Irving McDowell, and he was ordered to attack the Confederate capital of Richmond, Virginia. In addition, General Robert Patterson was ordered to tie up General Johnston's forces in the Shenandoah Valley, preventing him from joining up with General Beauregard, who would be the one defending Brigadier General Irving McDowell. In June and early July, McDowell and Beauregard engaged in several skirmishes in northeastern Virginia before McDowell was ordered to join up with Patterson and start his army towards Manassas Junction on July 17th. Shortly thereafter, Johnston on the Confederate side received orders to reinforce Beauregard against McDowell and Patterson. So I'm going to give a brief overview of the 5 encounters between both sides during this campaign. 2 of them are skirmishes, 2 of them are smaller battles, and 1 is the first of the big battles that would come in the future. These are very brief overviews. I will be doing videos on each of these battles. I just want to kind of give you a feel of the campaign. The first skirmish was at Fairfax Courthouse on June 1st, 1861. The Battle of Fairfax Courthouse was the first land battle of the Civil War between the Union and Confederate land forces after the surrender of Fort Sumter. It occurred 2 days before the Battle of Philippi, Virginia, which we covered in a prior video, and 9 days before the Battle of Big Bethel, also covered in a previous video. It consisted of a small Union cavalry force that was on a reconnaissance mission to gather information about the strength and disposition of the Confederate forces in Fairfax County. The two sides engaged in a small firefight, resulting in about 8 casualties on each side. The result was that the Union forces had to retreat and find a different route. The second skirmish was the same day in Arlington Mills, Vienna, Virginia. On the night of June 1st, 1861, 2 Union units were stationed in Arlington Mills. One was getting ready to go off duty, the other one was preparing to come on duty. About that time, 9 Virginia militiamen opened fire on the first company. Both of the companies of the Union fired back at the Virginia militia. It's also said that the companies accidentally fired on themselves as well. We'll cover that more in the actual battle. The Virginians were driven off after the brief exchange of fire. The Union forces suffered 1 killed, 1 wounded, while the Confederates suffered a single wounded soldier. The third engagement was a slightly larger battle, the Battle of Hoke's Run. Following the Confederate abandonment of Harper's Ferry on June 15th, General Johnston sent Brigadier General Thomas J. Jackson's brigade to establish a camp near the town of Martinsburg. This was to serve as both a warning of a Union advance and to delay General Patterson's force. On July 2nd, General Patterson of the Union Army crossed the Potomac and advanced on Jackson's position. Outnumbered and outflanked, Jackson fell back slowly, giving time for a supply train to escape before retreating to rejoin General Johnston's main army. The fourth battle is the battle at Blackburn's Ford. Union General McDowell's army arrived at Centerville during the morning July 18th. They were led by Brigadier General David Tyler's division. Under orders to reconnoiter the Confederate defenses near Blackburn's Ford, but not to engage them, Tyler launched an attack with Colonel Israel B. Richardson's brigade, but they were repulsed by the brigades of James Longstreet and Jubal Early. That is an awesome name, by the way, guys, Jubal Early. The battle ended with an artillery duel which lasted until dark, at which time Tyler withdrew back to Centerville. The final battle of the campaign will be the Battle of First Bull Run. It's also sometimes called the First Battle of Manassas. Following Tyler's defeat, McDowell decided to attempt an attack on the Confederate left flank. Starting about dawn on the 21st of July, one Union division started a diversionary attack on the Stone Bridge on the Confederate left. Two other divisions engaged Confederates on the center and the right, while two more Union divisions marched around the Confederate left flank to launch an attack on the Confederate rear. The Union flanking column was spotted and Confederate reinforcements were rushed to Matthews Hill, but were driven back to the Henry Hill House. A new Confederate defensive line using brigades from Johnston's army was formed along the hill, where they held against repeated Union attacks during the afternoon. A Confederate attack on Union left flank in the late afternoon forced the Union General McDowell to retreat back to the defenses of Washington, D.C. Now, to give you an aftermath of the campaign, Davis arrived on the Manassas battlefield soon after the battle ended. Although he attempted to organize a pursuit of the Union Army, he was convinced that the Confederate armies were too disorganized to mount an effective pursuit. The dispute between Beauregard and Davis over who was responsible for the failed pursuit resulted in Beauregard's transfer to the Western Theater in October. Johnston and Beauregard's commands were merged into the Department of the Northern Virginia, with the combined army retaining the name Army of the Potomac. Following First Bull Run on the other side, McDowell retreated to Centerville, set up a rear guard, held a council of war after sunset. A majority of officers urged a retreat, which started that night. In August, the Department of Northeastern Virginia, which was the name of McDowell's army, was merged with other departments in Maryland to form the Department of the Potomac, commanded by George C. McClellan. McDowell was demoted to commanding a division. Patterson was blamed for allowing Johnston to reinforce Beauregard and was also relieved of command. So that's kind of a brief overview of the First Manassas Campaign. Thank you very much for listening. Next week, we will start with the first battle, the battle at Fairfax Courthouse, June 1st, 1861.